I was like, I literally know how this sausage is made. You and I are not the only ones. The styling was this sort of like heroin chic, sort of from the 90s. Like the number one, somebody says sex sells. Yes, that's one single person's point of view. It gives me a little bit of hope for the industry. Okay, you guys, welcome back to Rich Artist Fridays. I'm so happy you guys are in here live with me. Also, hi to everybody in the Instagram live. I feel like such a broadcaster at this point, but last week you guys said it was so cool to be able to tune in on Instagram as well. So hi, everybody. And thank you for everybody that like genuinely signed up on Eventbrite. I love it when you guys actually enter into this space with me. And sometimes I get to see your guys' faces and get some reactions from you guys. And the space really is here for you guys to interact with me, interact with one another, have an exchange about these topics. We're all in the same industry and we're all trying to build our own careers and learn off of each other. And that's what the Rich Artist program is for, is that, you know, I've had the privilege of maybe gaining some experiences that some people don't have access to. I've made some mistakes that I'd like for you guys to maybe be able to avoid, learn from me, you know, take everything with a grain of salt that we talk about here as well. This is all just my own opinions and my own experiences. But I found that especially in the photography industry, there's so much gatekeeping going on. And when I first entered into the industry, it was very hard for me to find a footing and to be taken serious and be given a chance. And now that being in the position that I'm in now, I really love to build a community for photographers to get motivation, get inspiration, get insight into the world that you might be interested into entering into. Maybe you're a photographer that's looking to do big commercial shoots for brands or high-end paying private clients, or you want to build a network of other artists that give you feedback on your art. Maybe you want a large following on social media. Maybe you, I don't know, maybe you dream of having your own community to have an exchange about the social issues that you address in your art. All of these things I think are so valuable. However, I find that there are certain things that us photographers really just don't get access to very easily, that we don't get taught. Like, I went to college for photography. I never got taught how to run a successful photography business. I had to learn that from shadowing other successful photographers. I had to work my butt off to get my foot in the door with the industry. I had to intern for 6 months for basically for free. I really had to prove myself and I had to work hard, and I did encounter a lot of hurdles, a couple of stones that were put in my way. And that's sort of what I wanted to talk about today as well, is the fashion industry toxic? The toxicity that I have encountered in the fashion industry. I fully understand why people have very strong opinions about specifically the fashion and beauty industry. I myself, have, like, I get it, guys. Like, I've seen a lot of the ugly face of what our industry was built on. I was taught by an older generation of artists that, held a lot of power, in positions in power, big egos every once in a while, and very privileged in their position within society and within the power and the hierarchy that they were holding within the industry, which is very interesting to me. And I think before I get into like any of the stuff that I experience and maybe also what I learned from it and how I deal with it now, I just want to put out a disclaimer. I'm not here to like bash anybody or to badmouth anybody. I am insanely grateful for the experiences that I got to make in the industry. Even the ones that were the toughest to sort of navigate, I think especially those situations taught me so much. When I find myself in situations like that now, like if somebody's giving me a hard time, or if somebody holds prejudice against me, or somebody's trying to like purposefully put hurdles in my way, like I think back to some of the experiences that I've encountered when I was just an intern, just a third assistant or whatever it was, and sort of yeah, just not lose my head over it, not lose myself over it, not lose my self-confidence over it, not take everything with a grain of salt in terms of advice that I've been given. Like if I would have listened to all of the advice that I was given, I would have never progressed past being an intern, guys. So I also want to talk about like an underlying pattern of toxicity that I have witnessed in the beauty and fashion industry, but I also hope to put a little bit of a positive spin on it as well, with like the direction that I see our industry heading in, because it really does give me hope. It really does motivate me and inspire me, and I've gotten to work with brands recently that uh, give me so much hope for where our industry is heading and what's happening behind the scenes, and sort of things that are becoming truly important to brands and the internal structures of brands. And talk about that a little bit more in detail. But yes, disclaimer here. And I also want to invite all of you guys, also you guys here on Instagram, I see you guys all. Hi, I'm so glad you guys are here. To have an open exchange with me about this. If you're a photographer, or even if you're not, even if you're just a consumer of the fashion and beauty industry, I want to know what your view on toxicity in fashion and beauty is. And is it something that sort of scares you away? Is it something that upsets you? Is it something that you think should change? What is some change that you wish to see, or that you're waiting to see? Or what is some change that maybe you have already witnessed that you're like, I think this is a good direction to be heading in? Feel free to, if you're in here in the Eventbrite, unmute yourself, have a conversation with me, write in the chat, give me some reactions here, same as you guys on live. Like, please interact, please give me feedback, please tell me your stories. Like, that's what this space is here for. That's what our Rich Artist Fridays are here for. So let's see. Maybe let's start with like, where does the toxicity come from? And when I say toxicity, I mean, for example, people holding so much power and abusing that power over their team, or over other creatives, or over talent, which, talent is oftentimes the number one individual that gets exploited on a lot of sets. Unfortunately, I've seen it done again and again and again. And don't get me wrong, I've been on countless of sets where that wasn't the case, but I definitely have seen it being done. Let's see real quick. I see a comment here. I think our generation of artists are going to make significant change for the future. Absolutely. And I strongly agree with that. Like, I truly believe that. And that has been my experience. But especially when I first started working in the industry, like I said, when I was an intern, or when I was like a third assistant, I could not believe how much bullying was going on, how much like testing, how much ego-driven behavior was going on, and how people were treating each other. And not to mention, a lot of the toxic beauty standards that were still being set. I was on some sets where I remember there was a set where, like, I can't name any details or like what the publication was for, but I was on a set with a straight male cis white photographer. All of the people on set were white. All of the people that had anything to say on set were male, and the talent was female, insanely skinny. The styling was this sort of like heroin chic, sort of from the 90s, and she was smoking a cigarette. And I just thought, I looked at her and I thought, well, she genuinely looks ill. Like, this woman looks sickly. And it was kind of heartbreaking, that moment, because I was so infatuated with this industry and with the creatives that I got to be on set on, until the day where we shot this specific photo shoot. And it was an editorial for one of the biggest fashion magazines out there. And it just sort of shocked me, where I was like, body positivity was just something that was just starting to become mainstream. I hate using that term, but I remember being on set that day and realizing that I think a lot of the people that were on set that day had sort of lost touch with reality so much that they, I don't know, they condoned this image that we were painting, and it made me sad. Honestly, it did. And I'm not here to be a downer, but I did want to bring a good piece of honesty into this conversation from my own experiences. And that was one of the first experiences that I made when I first came to New York City and started working in the high-end fashion industry. Let's see, I love that you guys are interacting with me. Thank you guys so much. This is so fun. Somebody says, I'm so sorry, and sadly, it's not even close to coming to an end. Absolutely. Like as much as I am starting to see so much positive change, like you're absolutely right. Thank you for saying that. Like this is still an underlying structure that is going on and that is being preserved at all means by some of the largest organizations and companies and agencies in this industry. The main breadwinners in our industry are still from a different generation mostly, and they're still the ones that are sort of painting the tone of the beauty standards that we are setting society-wide, which is just absolutely nuts to me. Somebody says, I love the timeless styles. Soul says, heroin chic must go forever. Yes, agreed. Especially when it looks like what it did on that day on set. Somebody says, that's why I love Aryan ModCloth. Yes, shout out the brands that you guys love looking at. Like, hype up the brands where you actually see visual representation that makes you guys feel good. There are so many brands that are starting to catch on to the fact that consumers these days, like, we don't want to look at something anymore that feels absolutely unobtainable to us and that just makes us feel like shit about ourselves. Sorry for using that word, but like, it's so true. Every time I see an ad where I'm like, I literally can't relate, and it has this air of like, unless you become this person, or unless you buy this product, you will never be this person, you'll never be good enough, we'll never put you on a billboard, like you'll never be worthy. Like this underlying tone is just so exhausting, period. I hope you guys agree with me. Somebody says Victoria's Secret is sexy, but I can't support them. I understand that. For a long time, I thought that Victoria's Secret was just I found it very tiresome that their representation of female sexuality was so one note. And for a long time, they were so successful with that. And that's another thing, I think, when we're talking about toxicity, I see so many well-established brands, large agencies, artist representations, even licensing agencies, the ones that are like the number one names in the game. Like, I don't want to name any names, but like the biggest modeling agencies in the industry that have been, the most successful ones for the last 20 years, that have all of the Victoria's Secret supermodels signed contractually. I find that in these times right now, they are actually the slowest ones to start shifting. And that's not surprising, because they're this like well-oiled huge machine that has figured out a way to be insanely successful in this industry and hold an insane amount of power and influence. And it's hard to shift away from that one thing where you've cracked the code and it has really worked for you. And I myself have been signed to 2 agencies, one artist representation and one licensing agencies, that were like the number one. Somebody says sex sells. Yes, it does. But the way it does is hopefully changing, right? That 2 agencies that were like the top of the game. And when I first signed to these agencies, I thought, holy crap, I've made it. Like, I could not believe that I was getting a contract from this agency. And I thought, I had idolized these agencies for ever since I started really understanding like the biggest names of fashion photographers out there. Like, I knew which agencies they were signed for. I had assisted them. I had done their retouching. Like, I had looked at every single thing that they've shot. I've read their biographies and all of this stuff. And I thought, one day when I get signed to these agencies, I'll have freaking made it. And guess what, guys? I got signed as like the new fresh talent and somebody that, has social representation within their body of work, and I made them look damn good, you know? I think it looked very good for them to sign me as a talent. And in the end, I just ended up falling, you know, just sort of falling off the table. Like, there was no real interest in helping me propel my career forward. It was more a performative thing of you know, what I stand for, they can associate themselves with. But when it came to actually working within these agencies, there was no quick change. There was no like zeitgeist. There was no being with the change that in the industry that was starting to pop up, diversifying behind the camera, advocating for social issues alongside commercial ambiguity. Like, I am not disputing the fact that we are here to sell a product. That's what the fashion and beauty industry is. I'm fully aware of that. Like, if I wasn't okay with that, then I would become a journalist photographer or a documentary photographer. But I love creativity. I love the fashion industry. Like, don't get me wrong. I think fashion is one of the most multifaceted, diverse, intricate forms of art out there, of referencing culture and referencing history and zeitgeist and you know, the development of our society. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I've been obsessed with it ever since I was like 7 years old, guys. Okay. But you know, diving a little bit deeper into that industry, yeah, I saw a lot of stuff that honestly, like, maybe I was a little bit naive walking into these rooms, but it genuinely shocked me to my core. The toxicity, the abuse, the manipulation, the exploitation was heartbreaking. And I agree with what you guys are saying here in the live chat. It is by no means over. It is still very, very much an underlying structure in our society. What do you guys think? Do you still observe a lot of toxicity? Are you, for especially specifically for my photographers in here, what are some areas that you still observe the most toxicity on set or offset in agencies within your interactions, maybe also with clients? I'm so curious, because obviously I can only paint a picture from one single person's point of view here. I'd love to hear from you guys what you guys are observing. Let's see. I see you guys going crazy in the comments. This is so fun. You're so strong. I am inspired by your bravery. Thank you so much. That is so sweet. And Soul says, you go, Sophie. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Fashion and music is life. Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah, music. I think I can say the same thing about music. It's just the best, right? So where does that toxicity come from? I think it comes from the people in our industry that historically have held the most privilege within their position in society, being put in a position where you have a large team of creatives coming together, and somebody does have to lead the team. Like, there's no disputing that. But the people that were chosen for that position were the same people again and again and again. And the things that they want to see is the only thing that's worthy of being shown. And so it sort of festers this streamlined process of feeding us the same thing over and over again. And this is not just from a consumer's perspective. Take it from me, from somebody that was behind the scenes, a fly on the wall. I was in all of these rooms, on all of these sets. Like, this is being done in front of the camera, behind the camera, on the billboards that you guys are looking at. You know, like, I was 22 when I first moved to New York City full time, and I was really not here to come for anybody's job. But the amount of bullying that I endured, and the amount of testing, and the amount of prejudice held against me simply because I was female, showing up in a set where I wasn't going to slot into the one position where people knew how to utilize me. I was there to learn it all. I wanted to be shown all of it. I wanted to be given access to all of it. And in the beginning, people were like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, and I get it, you know, like, investing your hard-earned knowledge and experiences into somebody new and somebody young. I understand that they want to see you earn it to a certain extent, but this sort of hierarchical, I don't even know what to call it, what it was that I experienced. I think it was these like purposeful tests that were being thrown at me so hard from day one in order to see, are we going to break them or are they going to persevere? And if we can't get rid of them, eventually, okay, fine, we'll give you a chance. Like that's how it started. Not to mention some of the stuff that came way later when I was, I was on set, I was getting paid to be there, I was actually doing a genuine job, I was contributing, but because I wasn't up here on that ladder of hierarchy, I was still getting it left and right, and so like underhanded as well from some people where like they knew that they could get away with it. And I've had so many of my especially female and non-binary colleagues on set turn to me and be like, why would anybody do that? And the answer is always because they can. And that is where that toxicity festers, and that's where it lives, is within that hierarchical structure where the people that hold power can get away with it. And not to mention, the treatment of the individuals that are in front of the camera that are being tokenized and that are being put in a position of representation that maybe they didn't even sign up for. And I very soon realized that if not the creatives on set are willing to protect the integrity and the identity of the talent on set, literally nobody will. And I have seen far too many sets where nobody did. And that is so, so, so heartbreaking. And we can put as much diversity and representation in front of the camera, but if that isn't being supported behind the camera, I don't think it translates. I think consumers these days, we catch on very quickly. But B, what are we doing it for? Are we just trying to save face? And that is something that I do observe a lot in like the older structures and the older organizations in our industry that have held power for a really long time and been the most successful in our industry, is that some of them, it's a fine line to walk of wanting to do the right thing, but also wanting to look like you're doing the right thing. And what the right thing is, sometimes I get invited into rooms where I feel like they don't even understand the extent of what it should look like behind the cameras and behind the scenes in order to have a true effect on society. And I actually think that is the most powerful version of marketing. I think that is the most powerful version of selling a product. Again, like, I'm not disputing the fact that we're here to sell a product. And we're so privileged to hold these creative jobs. Like, whenever I look around and I'm like, wow, I get to choose the team that I work with on set. Like, what an amazing privilege that I get to pull people into the rooms that I spend my every single day in. And like, we're on set and I'm like, it's not open heart surgery, we're literally creating art. Like, isn't that amazing? But can't we find a way to have others benefit from it in a larger scale as well? And that is not just being done by putting the right person in front of the camera. That is being done by every single person that gets to be in that room. And for the longest time, that was way too selective, in my opinion. I see you guys going crazy in the chat. Let me see what you guys are saying. It made me angry that I was a nobody and couldn't stand up for her. I don't know if you're referring to yourself or to somebody else, but I absolutely understand that. And I have experienced that anger like to my core. Like, don't get me wrong, it makes me angry. It made me very angry in the beginning, especially. Put a pin in that. I want to talk about anger just a little bit in a second. Also, lack of representation of older females. Seems like us females die after our 30s. Insert Leonardo DiCaprio evil laugh here. Yes, absolutely. I think ageism is still one of the most toxic patterns in the fashion and beauty industry. And I think we're just like starting to graze the surface of even figuring out how to counterbalance that. And I think it's not being done nearly enough. Somebody says, I personally struggle still with looking in the mirror. I've come so far, but I still have to every day be careful to not slip back into anorexia. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and for sharing that. I think that is so amazing that you're opening up about that. And I 100% can relate to that. I only over the last couple of years started to realize that I am really changing the way that I am embracing my body because of some of the campaigns that I am seeing, emerge from my industry itself. Like, I work in this industry. I am the creative within this industry, like I am the one making the stuff, and I still personally need way more representation in order to be able to embrace the way I look and the way that my body looks and the way it feels. And I, even though I know the ins and outs, like I literally know how the sausage is made, and I still need help too. So I know that you and I are not the only ones, okay? And thank you for sharing that. Even now, hearing you, I still am interested in modeling. It's an everyday struggle for all girls and ladies. Oh, absolutely. I never thought I would model especially because of all of the toxicity that I observed so early on in my career in this industry. I was like, why the hell would I want to have that position where like I was already being bullied enough, you guys. And like I could only imagine what it would feel like if you were in a much, much, much more vulnerable and exposed position, which was like the model's position. Like I was the third assistant back there in the corner, like, you know, setting up C-stands, you know, nobody even really cared about me, versus the 15-year-old girl that we were shooting for the cover of Vogue USA, you know? And yet my experience modeling has been absolutely healing. I think it's definitely always a challenge where it's like, if I don't think I'm good enough for this, nobody else will. But I think I had the advantage of like having been in so many of these rooms and understanding who all of these people are. And like, I do understand the hierarchical structure. Like I do understand the dynamics on set, and I do know, where I need to adapt a take it or leave it sort of attitude, knowing that like I can walk at any moment. And knock on wood, my experience modeling has been so healing actually in that sense. I think it also has to do with the agency that I have backing me. And obviously, you know, I am not the Victoria's Secret classical model that, you know, I would have never been booked for like half of the things that I get to do today, even like 5 years ago, which is kind of crazy, but also kind of gives me a little bit of hope for the industry. Soul says, amen. I get bullied for my flat chest. I'm so sorry. You know, I get it. And I understand that our industry really is a perpetuator of what people think is good enough. And that's sad, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the power to do something about it. And that is exactly why I chose to have the career that I have, you know, and I'm so grateful that I'm starting to get invited into rooms by brands that really do understand that and really do look at how they're structured internally, what their hierarchical structure looks like, who is holding power, who gets to have a voice, and inviting new people that have been kept out of those rooms for far too long. And that work is so fulfilling, and it really does give me purpose to means to an end, and making a living and finding creative expression and teaching other people how to do that for themselves too, because I see you guys, your art is so amazing, and I think it's so important that you guys are given these opportunities and that your voices are being heard, because you guys are clearly interested in having this kind of conversation. Otherwise you guys wouldn't be here talking to me about this and listening to one person's feedback from what I'm seeing behind the scenes. So thank you so much for being here. I think it's absolutely inspiring. I think you guys are inspiring. And I see a comment, how inspiring. So thank you so much. The future is in our hands. Let's become the creatives that change the narrative of what's beautiful. Oh, I love that. I think we should end it there, because I can't say anything that's even more perfect than that. Somebody says, I really can't thank you enough, and I can't thank you guys enough. This was so inspiring. I think this is so fun to actually get to have an exchange with you guys here. I didn't even get through half of the points that I wanted to talk about, so maybe we'll do a part 2 about this. But I thank you guys so much for being here. We do these every Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you guys will tune back in, go on to my Eventbrite where I have them pre-programmed. If you guys ever want to come and like like actually have a face-to-face with me, then book a ticket on the Eventbrite and come into the Zoom. But even for everybody that's saying hi in the live, I love you guys so much. This is so lovely. And if you're a photographer that wants a little bit more one-on-one direct input from me, hit me up. I do free consultations for one-on-one coaching. I'd love to help you guys out, benefit from my experiences and my learnings and everything that I've taken away so far up until this point in my career. And this is great. I love this exchange that's going on. I see a yes, please part 2. Thank you for holding this space for us. You guys are so welcome. Amen. Hell yeah. And remember, the young ladies look up to us. I hope they do. That's why we're here. I mean, at least that's why I'm here. So thank you for saying that. And I love you guys so, so, so much. And I will see you guys at the latest next week, Friday. Mwah. Mwah to everybody in here. Mwah to everybody in there. Bye, you guys.